the night he abandoned his pregnant wife at the doorstep. He had no idea that the woman he called a burden would become the owner of $10 billion within days. She said nothing. She cried in silence, one hand resting on her unborn child, asking only one question. What was my baby's crime? And the woman he left behind, believing she was poor and powerless. He never knew that her mother, now gone forever, had secretly left behind a trillionaire empire in her daughter's name. This is a story of betrayal, of greed, and of a woman who was broken, but never defeated. This is the story of Unaware. She inherited $10 billion after her secret trillionaire mother died. Hello, dear listeners. Thank you for joining me today. Before I begin my story, I would be very happy if you subscribed to the channel and left a comment writing which state or country you are listening from. It always warms my heart to see how far our stories travel. Unaware, she inherited $10 billion after her secret trillionaire mom died. My name is Aisha Carter. I live in a small, rented apartment on the outskirts of the city, where the paint on the walls is peeling, the lights flicker without warning, and silence feels heavier than noise. I never imagined this place would become my prison. I am 7 months pregnant, and the man I loved, the man I trusted with my life, walked out on me the night my world collapsed. That night, it was raining. Not violently, not loudly, just enough to soak the streets, blur the city lights, and seep into places you can't protect, like the heart. The kind of rain that doesn't announce itself, but stays long enough to make you cold from the inside. I stood near the front door, my bare feet pressed against the freezing floor. One hand rested on my swollen belly, feeling the slow, gentle movement of the life growing inside me. The other hand clutched the edge of the wooden table, my fingers shaking as if they might let go of everything holding me upright. Across the room, Daniel was putting on his coat. The sound of the zipper felt louder than thunder. He didn't look at me. Not once. "You don't have to do this," I whispered. My voice didn't sound like my own. It sounded weak. Fragile. "Please. I'm carrying your child." For a moment, just one, I thought he might stop. Daniel paused, his hand frozen mid-movement. Hope, foolish and desperate, fluttered inside my chest. Then he sighed. Annoyed. As if I had asked him to stay late at work. As if my pain was an inconvenience. "I can't live like this anymore," he said, his voice flat and emotionless. "You're always sick. Always emotional. Always broke." Broke. That word landed like a slap. I felt my lips part, but no sound came out. It was as if my body refused to defend itself anymore. Broke. He had no idea what that word cost me. I had sold my mother's old necklace months ago, the one thing she had given me before she fell ill. I skipped meals so Daniel wouldn't notice how thin the grocery bags were getting. I pretended the nausea didn't hurt, the back pain wasn't unbearable, the loneliness wasn't slowly killing me. I smiled when I wanted to scream. I stayed quiet when I wanted to beg. And still, I was the problem. "I just need time," I said softly. "After the baby is born, things will change. I promise." Daniel finally looked at me, but there was no love in his eyes. No guilt. Only impatience. "I'm done waiting," he said. "I didn't sign up for this life." He grabbed his car keys from the table. The metallic sound echoed in my chest. Something inside me collapsed, not physically, but emotionally. Like a wall that had been holding my heart together finally gave up. "What about our child?" I asked. He laughed. A short, bitter laugh that didn't belong to the man I married. "A child needs stability," he said. "Money. Not tears and hospital bills." My eyes burned, but I refused to cry. I would not give him the satisfaction. "So that's it?" I whispered. "You're just leaving?" He nodded. "I've already arranged everything. The papers will be sent to you." Papers. Divorce papers. While I was pregnant with his child. Daniel walked toward the door. As his hand touched the handle, something inside me broke completely. "My mother died last week," I said. My voice was barely audible. He froze. For a heartbeat, hope rose again, painful and unwanted. Maybe he would soften. Maybe he would remember the woman who stood beside him when he had nothing. She raised me alone, I continued. She was sick, but she never complained. I didn't even get to say goodbye properly. Daniel turned around slowly. I'm sorry, he said. But his eyes were empty. Cold. But that doesn't change anything. He opened the door. Cold air rushed inside, carrying the smell of rain and distant traffic. The city didn't stop. The world didn't pause. My life shattered quietly. I took a shaky step forward. Daniel, please. He hesitated. Then, without turning back, he said, the words that still echo in my nightmares. I can't carry your burden anymore. The door slammed shut. The sound exploded through the apartment like a gunshot. For a long time, I didn't move. I just stood there, hand on my belly, staring at the closed door, waiting for it to open again, waiting for him to realize this was a mistake. It never did. Minutes passed. Or hours. I don't know. Finally, my knees gave in. I slid down against the wall, the cold floor biting into my skin. My breath came in broken gasps, my chest tightening with every heartbeat. I'm sorry, I whispered to the baby inside me. I tried. That was when the tears came. Silent. Unstoppable. I wasn't thinking about money. Or revenge. Or the future. I was thinking about survival. 3 days later, I stood at the cemetery. The sky was gray, heavy, as if it might collapse at any moment. Rows of marble gravestones stretched endlessly, names carved into stone like forgotten stories. I wore a simple black dress, too loose around my shoulders, painfully tight around my belly. My mother's grave was still fresh. No grand funeral. No long line of mourners. Just a few distant relatives and strangers who left quickly. That hurt more than I expected. My mother had lived quietly. Too quietly. People used to look at her and see nothing special, plain clothes, no jewelry, no car. Just a woman who worked from home and avoided questions about her past. They never knew who she really was. Neither did I. You deserved better, I whispered, placing a single white flower on her grave. I didn't know that behind her silence, behind her modest life, was a secret powerful enough to destroy everything I thought I knew. As I turned to leave, a man in a dark suit stepped toward me. He didn't belong there, sharp eyes, calm posture, an expensive watch glinting under the gray sky. Mrs. Aisha Carter, he asked politely. My heart skipped. Yes, I said cautiously. My name is Mr. Reynolds, he said. I was your mother's legal representative. I frowned. There must be a mistake. My mother didn't own anything. She barely had savings. He studied my face carefully. I believe, he said slowly, there has been a misunderstanding. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. What do you mean? There are certain matters regarding your mother's estate, he said, that require your immediate attention. I laughed nervously. Estate? There must be an error. There is no error, he replied calmly. And for the first time since Daniel left me, something unfamiliar stirred inside my chest. Not hope, not happiness, but confusion. And deep beneath it, the faint beginning of a truth. I was never meant to discover this way. So now, let me tell you this story. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. And that day, as I left the cemetery, I felt like someone had quietly pushed my life off its axis. I didn't cry on the way home. Not because I was strong, but because my mind was too full to let my heart speak. Mr. Reynolds' words echoed inside my head again and again. There are certain matters regarding your mother's estate that require your immediate attention. Estate. The word felt foreign, almost insulting. My mother had died with a small suitcase of clothes, a few notebooks, and a laptop that barely worked. I had gone through her apartment myself. There was no sign of wealth. No documents. No hidden drawers. Just silence. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay on the bed, staring at the cracked ceiling, my hand resting on my belly as my baby shifted gently inside me, unaware of the storm waiting outside this fragile world. I don't understand, I whispered. None of this makes sense. The baby kicked softly as if responding. For the first time since Daniel left, I allowed myself to cry again, not from abandonment, but from confusion. The next morning, my phone rang at exactly 9 a.m. Unknown number. I hesitated before answering. Mrs. Carter, a calm female voice said, "This is Ms. Blake from Reynolds and Associates. We have arranged transportation for you today." Transportation? I repeated, half asleep. Yes. Mr. Reynolds asked that you be brought to the office comfortably, given your condition. I sat up slowly. I didn't agree to anything I said. There was a pause. Then, gently, of course. "But your presence is necessary." Necessary. I looked around the small apartment Daniel and I once shared. His side of the closet was empty. His mug was gone. Even his pillow had disappeared. Necessary felt like a luxury I no longer had. "Fine," I said quietly. "One meeting." The car that arrived an hour later didn't belong in my neighborhood. Black. Polished. Silent. The driver stepped out and opened the door for me as if this were normal, as if I belonged in a world where doors opened before you asked. As we drove through the city, I watched familiar streets disappear, replaced by glass buildings and guarded entrances. My chest tightened. This wasn't just about paperwork. I felt it. The office was nothing like I imagined. Not cold. Not intimidating. Elegant. Controlled. Powerful. Mr. Reynolds greeted me personally, offering water, asking if I was comfortable. Every gesture was careful, respectful, as if I mattered. That alone unsettled me. "Mrs. Carter," he said once we were seated, "before we proceed, I need to ask you something important." I nodded. "Did your mother ever tell you about her past?" I shook my head. She avoided it. Said some doors were better left closed. Mr. Reynolds exchanged a glance with another man in the room, older, gray-haired, silent. "That sounds like her," he murmured. "Why?" I asked. "Why hide everything from me?" Mr. Reynolds folded his hands. "Because her enemies never stopped looking." The word hit me like ice. "Enemies?" I whispered. "She believed anonymity was your greatest protection." My heart pounded. Protection from what? They showed me photographs next. Old ones. My mother, young, confident, standing beside men in suits. In boardrooms. At construction sites. In front of private jets. I didn't recognize her. She looked powerful. "This can't be her," I said, my voice shaking. "She hated attention. She hated danger," Mr. Reynolds corrected softly. The room felt smaller. Every memory of my childhood replayed itself in a different light. The frequent moves. The strict privacy. The sudden disappearances. She wasn't hiding from life. She was hiding life from me. "Why tell me now?" I asked. "Because," he said carefully, "your mother left instructions. Very specific ones." He slid a sealed envelope across the table. My name was written on it. In my mother's handwriting. My hands trembled as I held it. "Not today," I said suddenly. "I can't read this today." Mr. Reynolds nodded. "Of course." But, as I stood to leave, he said something that stopped me cold. "There are people who already know you exist, Mrs. Carter." I turned slowly. "They always knew," he continued, "but now, they know she's gone." Fear wrapped itself around my spine. "And me?" I asked. He met my eyes. "Now," he said quietly, "they will be watching you." That night, alone in my apartment, I locked the door twice. I sat on the bed, the envelope resting beside me like a sleeping threat. My baby kicked again. "I don't know what your grandmother was protecting us from," I whispered. "But I promise you this." I placed my hand over my belly. "I won't let anyone hurt you." Outside, the city lights flickered. And somewhere far beyond my understanding, a secret empire had begun to shift. Because its true heir had finally been found. And that night, for the first time in my life, I realized fear can live quietly inside you, without screaming. The envelope lay on my bedside table. Untouched. My mother's handwriting stared back at me like a ghost that refused to leave. I didn't open it. Not because I wasn't curious, but because a part of me was terrified of what it might confirm. Outside, the city hummed as if nothing had changed. Cars passed. Lights flickered. Somewhere, people laughed. Somewhere else, someone slept peacefully. I couldn't. I locked the door again. Then checked the windows. Then sat on the bed, my back pressed against the wall, my hands resting protectively on my belly. "I won't let anyone hurt you," I whispered to my unborn child. But the truth was I didn't know how. Around midnight, my phone vibrated. I flinched. Unknown number. My heart pounded as I stared at the screen. Mr. Reynolds' warning echoed in my mind. "They will be watching you." I let it ring. Then a message appeared. "Unknown, you shouldn't be alone tonight." My breath caught in my throat. I typed, deleted, typed again. "Me, who is this?" 3 dots appeared instantly. "Unknown, a friend." For now. I felt sick. "Me? How did you get my number?" The reply came slower this time. "Unknown, your mother was very careful. You are not yet." Tears burned my eyes. I blocked the number. But fear doesn't disappear when you close your eyes. The next morning, I woke to a sound outside my door. Footsteps, slow, deliberate. I froze. My heart hammered as I tiptoed closer, holding my breath. Through the peephole, I saw nothing, just the empty hallway. When I opened the door slightly, a black envelope lay on the floor. No name, no return address. Inside was a single piece of paper. "Open her letter." My hands shook so badly I almost dropped it. That was when I knew. This wasn't coincidence. This was a message. I called Mr. Reynolds immediately. He arrived within an hour, his calm expression hiding urgency beneath it. "You didn't tell me this would happen," I said, my voice breaking as I handed him the envelope. He read it silently. Then he sighed. "I hoped we had more time," he said. "Time for what?" I asked. "For people to threaten me?" He looked at my belly, then back at me. "For protection." He insisted I move, temporarily. A secure apartment. Guards. No public appearances. "I'm not a criminal," I said weakly. "Why do I need guards?" "Because," he replied, "your mother didn't just build wealth. She disrupted powerful people." That word again. Powerful. I thought of my mother in her simple clothes, stirring soup in our small kitchen. "What did she do?" I asked. Mr. Reynolds hesitated. "She refused to sell," he said finally. "She refused to bow." I swallowed. "And now?" I whispered. "Now," he said gently, "they will test you." That afternoon, something worse happened. Daniel called. I stared at his name on my phone for a full minute before answering. "What do you want?" I asked quietly. "I heard about your mother," he said. His voice sounded different, softer. "Curious. Who told you?" I asked. Pause. "People talk," he replied. My blood ran cold. "I thought we agreed no contact," I said. "I was worried," he said quickly. "You're pregnant." "Alone. Alone." "You didn't worry when you left," I said. Another pause. "Then, I didn't know then what I know now." My grip tightened on the phone. "What do you know?" I asked. He laughed lightly. Too lightly. "That your mother wasn't as poor as you claimed." The room spun. "I never claimed anything," I whispered. "She owned shares," he continued. "Serious shares. People are saying big numbers." My stomach dropped. "How do you know this?" I demanded. "I have connections," he said. And maybe I made a mistake. There it was. Regret. But not love. "Don't call me again," I said and hung up. My hands were shaking. They were already circling. That night, I finally opened my mother's letter. Her words were calm, loving, precise. "My Aisha, if you are reading this, it means I failed to protect you long enough. Everything I built was meant for you, but not yet. Trust no one who comes too easily. Power reveals faces you were never meant to see." Tears blurred the page. She knew. She always knew. As I folded the letter, a realization settled deep inside me. I wasn't just inheriting money. I was inheriting enemies. And the quiet life I once begged to keep was already gone. And I was learning, the hard way, that wealth attracts danger even faster than it attracts admiration. I had barely settled into the temporary apartment Mr. Reynolds had arranged for me. Guards. Security cameras. Unmarked vehicles outside. Everything was meant to protect me, but ironically, it also made me feel like a prisoner. I was alone with my thoughts, pacing slowly, hand on my belly. Every shadow felt like a threat. Every sound made me jump. That evening, as I walked to the window to see the city lights, my phone vibrated again. Unknown number. My heart sank. Reluctantly, I answered. Mrs. Carter, a calm male voice said. We need to meet. It's urgent. Who is this? I demanded. No time to explain. Meet me at the corner of 5th and Main in 30 minutes. Come alone. I stared at the phone. 30 minutes. The fear inside me screamed. The baby kicked fiercely, almost as if sensing the tension. My hands trembled. I wanted to scream. To hang up. To ignore it completely. But I couldn't. Because somewhere deep inside, I knew this was connected to my mother. To the secret she had been protecting me from my entire life. I called Mr. Reynolds immediately. His expression, usually calm, tightened. This is serious, he said. Don't go alone. If you must, we will arrange surveillance. No, I said, my voice shaking. I have to see for myself. I have to know what we're dealing with. He didn't argue. Instead, he handed me a small device. Keep this on you. It will alert us if anything happens. I nodded silently, sliding it into the inner pocket of my coat. The rain had returned by the time I reached the corner. Streetlights flickered. Cars passed by lazily. The city looked ordinary. Too ordinary. I waited. 10 minutes passed. Then I felt it, eyes on me. Someone was following. Moving just behind the shadows of the buildings. Step by step, mirroring me. I quickened my pace. So did they. My pulse raced. I had never felt fear like this. Not during Daniel's betrayal. Not when I discovered my mother's secrets. This was different. Immediate. Real. A hand grabbed my shoulder. I spun around. A man, tall, dressed in black, his face hidden under a hood. Mrs. Carter, he said calmly, your mother left instructions for emergencies like this. You are in danger. Who are you? I demanded, my voice louder than I intended. The baby kicked sharply. My name doesn't matter, he said. What matters is that you trust me. For now. I hesitated. Every instinct screamed to run. But somehow I knew he was telling the truth. We ran through narrow alleyways. He led me to an unmarked van. Inside, monitors displayed live city footage. Streets, buildings, intersections. I recognized some of the cameras. They were everywhere. Watching me. Who are these people? I asked, voice trembling. People who don't want you to inherit what's rightfully yours, he said simply. Your mother had enemies. And now they are testing you. I sank into the seat, my body shaking. 7 months pregnant. Alone. Afraid. But something ignited inside me. I clenched my fists. They'll regret underestimating me, I whispered. Back in the apartment, the threats didn't stop. A car parked outside for hours, engine idling. Strange emails with cryptic messages. Shadowy figures on the sidewalk. Every day, I felt watched. One evening, as I opened the apartment door, a man in a dark suit was standing inside. Who are you? I shouted, panic rising. I'm security, he said calmly. Your mother hired me long ago. I'm here to protect you. Relief washed over me, but it was fleeting. Because fear had already taken root. I couldn't stay silent anymore. I needed answers. I needed to know why my mother's life, and now mine, was filled with shadows, secrets, and threats. I called Mr. Reynolds. Tell me everything, I said. Every detail about my mother, the enemies, the company, the billion-dollar empire she built. He sighed. You are ready for this, Aisha, he said. But only just. What comes next will change your life forever. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed, the city lights casting long shadows through the window. My belly moved gently, a reminder that life continues even when danger surrounds you. I looked at the ceiling. Daniel's betrayal. My mother's secrets. Strangers following me. The letter. The warnings. And I realized something. I wasn't helpless. I had survived worse. And I would survive this too. Because now, the game had begun. And I was no longer just the abandoned, pregnant wife. I was the heir. The true owner. And soon, the most powerful player in a game I never knew existed. And nothing could have prepared me for the day I first stepped into the boardroom of Carter Global Holdings. The building was massive, glass towers piercing the sky, reflecting sunlight like shards of broken mirrors. It gleamed, sharp and intimidating, a symbol of everything my mother had built in secret. I took a deep breath, hand on my belly, trying to steady my racing heart. 7 months pregnant, alone, and already under surveillance. Mr. Reynolds accompanied me. "Are you ready?" he asked quietly. "I have to be," I whispered. "I can't let fear rule me." We entered the boardroom. The doors closed behind us with a solid thud that felt like a final warning. The room was filled with people in sharp suits. Men and women I didn't recognize. Their eyes flicked to me briefly, then back to papers, screens, and charts. And then, silence. I felt every gaze burn into me, weighing me like 1,000 invisible hands. Mr. Reynolds gestured toward the head of the table. "Mrs. Carter, the board awaits you." I swallowed hard and took a tentative step forward. A tall man, gray-haired, immaculate in a dark suit, rose. "Mrs. Carter," he said smoothly. "I am Thomas Caldwell, chairman of Carter Global Holdings. Welcome." I nodded, unsure of what to say. My mother had built all this, and now I was supposed to step into her world? "Please sit," Caldwell gestured toward the chair at the head of the table. "We have important matters to discuss regarding the transition of ownership." Transition. Ownership. Words I barely understood, yet felt heavier than stones on my chest. Mr. Reynolds handed me a folder. Inside were documents, spreadsheets, financial statements, numbers so large I couldn't even comprehend them. "Your mother," Caldwell began, "was a visionary. She built this empire silently, strategically, protecting her assets from exposure. She intended for you to inherit everything." I looked down at the papers, feeling the weight of billions on my shoulders. The life I had known, the small apartment, the struggles, felt so distant now. I don't know anything about running a company," I admitted quietly. Caldwell's expression remained neutral. "Then you will learn. And you will decide who remains, who leaves, and how this company moves forward." I nodded, trying to hide my fear. I need time," I whispered. "You don't have time," Caldwell said firmly. "People are already watching. Rivals, investors, and competitors are aware of your inheritance. Your mother built more than wealth, she built a legacy. And now it is vulnerable." I sat in silence, processing. My mother, this quiet, modest woman, had left me an empire. And along with it, a target. Thomas Caldwell slid a folder across the table. "These are the pending contracts, ongoing deals, and sensitive information. Review them carefully. Your signature is required on several documents immediately. Your mother trusted you, now we must see if we can." I looked at Mr. Reynolds, who nodded reassuringly. "You're ready for this, Aisha. Trust yourself." I took a deep breath, and for the first time since Daniel left me, I felt a flicker of power. The first document was a multi-million-dollar real estate acquisition. The company had invested quietly in multiple countries. Signing it without hesitation could secure millions more. Hesitating could cause delays, losses, and questions from stakeholders. I closed my eyes. I will do it," I said, placing my signature. My hand shook slightly, but I signed. One by one, the documents came. Contracts, investments, board decisions. Each signature felt like a step into the unknown, each step confirming that my life was changing forever. By the end of the morning, the board members looked at me differently. No longer just the heiress. Now I was the decision maker. Caldwell leaned closer. "Mrs. Carter, there is another matter. Your mother kept certain secrets from everyone, specific assets, trusts, and international holdings. Only you have access. Only you can authorize them." I felt a shiver down my spine. Secrets, power, responsibility, all combined into one. I nodded. "I understand. Show me." Mr. Reynolds handed me another folder. Maps, account numbers, documents, everything encrypted, hidden, powerful. It was overwhelming. And then I remembered the warnings. Threats, messages, footsteps, people watching me, testing me. They were not going to stop. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I hesitated. Mr. Reynolds glanced at me, frowning. I ignored it. The room, once silent, now felt tense. Everyone's eyes on me. The power in my hands. The legacy of my mother's life, huge, dangerous, unstoppable. I realized something in that moment. I was no longer the abandoned, frightened wife. I was the heir, the owner, the target. And the only person who could protect everything my mother built was me. After hours of signing, reviewing, and learning, Caldwell finally spoke. Mrs. Carter, the board respects your authority. But understand this, enemies are waiting. Rivals. Investors who wish harm. Those who believed your mother's empire could be taken by force. I looked down at my belly. 7 months pregnant. Alone. Responsible for billions. And now, a target. Fear hit me first. Then anger. Then determination. I would not fail. I could not. Because this was not just about money. This was about survival. And about honoring the mother who built this empire in silence, protecting me all along. And nothing could have prepared me for the storm that followed my first day in the boardroom. I returned to the apartment, exhausted but strangely exhilarated. For the first time, I felt the power of my mother's legacy in my hands. Every signature, every decision was mine. But power always attracts attention. By the next morning, the first warning arrived. A black envelope on my doorstep. No name. No markings. Inside was a single card. You are not ready. Leave what is not yours. My hands trembled as I read it. The baby kicked sharply as if sensing the danger. I dialed Mr. Reynolds immediately. They know, I whispered. Someone is testing me. He didn't flinch. I expected this. It's time to learn how to be untouchable. Later that day, I returned to the Carter Global offices. The elevator ride up felt longer than ever. Each floor seemed to whisper threats, secrets, challenges I could not yet name. At the door of the boardroom, Thomas Caldwell awaited me. His usual calmness had a sharp edge today. Mrs. Carter, he said, you may have signed the documents. But power comes with enemies. Someone is already trying to influence our partners, to destabilize our company. And they may attempt to reach you directly. I felt my chest tighten. Who? I asked. He shook his head. We don't know yet. But you must remain cautious. Everyone you meet now is a potential risk. As I sat through meetings, reviewing investments and financial portfolios, a strange sense of paranoia took hold. Every glance felt like a test. Every question from the board a trap. And then it happened. My assistant, a young woman assigned to me by Mr. Reynolds, handed me a document with shaking hands. Mrs. Carter, this just arrived. Confidential. I opened it. Screenshots, emails, messages, all leaked. Private negotiations. Insider communications. All traced to my personal email. Someone was trying to destabilize me. To intimidate me. To make me falter. I clenched my fists. My mother had warned me. Enemies would emerge. But now I understood what that truly meant. That evening, as I returned home, a shadow followed me. I felt it before I saw it, someone's gaze, heavy and deliberate, tracking my every step. A man in a black coat lingered near my building, hands tucked in his pockets, eyes sharp. I slipped into the apartment quietly, locking the door behind me. The baby kicked violently, and I pressed a hand to my belly. They won't touch you, I whispered. I will not let them. The next day, an unexpected visitor arrived at the office. A man tall, impeccably dressed, with a cold smile. Mrs. Carter, he asked. I represent certain investors. I think we need to discuss your recent decisions. Something about him sent a chill down my spine. I studied his eyes. Calculated. Confident. Dangerous. I don't see why, I said. The decisions are in the company's best interest. He smiled thinly. Perhaps. Or perhaps you are inexperienced. Your mother was wise. Are you? I met his gaze. My heartbeat quickened, but I refused to show fear. I am learning, I said firmly. The room fell silent. Everyone could feel the tension. That night, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I hesitated. The baby shifted sharply. Unknown, you should not have signed today. Power comes at a price. I clenched my phone, hands shaking. Me, who are you? No reply. Just the 3 dots. lingering, waiting. Over the next days, the attacks became more personal. Emails threatening my security. Letters suggesting betrayals among my own staff. People lurking near my apartment and following me after leaving the office. Each incident made my pulse race, each shadow seemed closer. And yet, somewhere inside, I felt a strange resolve. I was no longer the abandoned, powerless woman Daniel had left behind was the heir. The target. And now I had to prove I was not weak. I called Mr. Reynolds late at night. "They're testing me," I said. "I can feel it. Someone wants to break me." He paused. "Good. That means you're on the right path. Fear teaches control. Danger teaches strength. And the moment they believe you are afraid, you will strike." I swallowed hard. "Strike?" "Yes," he said calmly. "Your mother's empire is not just about money. It's about power. And you must learn how to wield it before anyone can take it from you." I looked at my belly. My child stirred. I placed my hand over it. "I will protect both of you," I whispered. And deep inside, I realized that the woman who left me an empire had not just given me wealth. She had given me a lesson in survival. And by the time the sun rose, I realized that inheriting billions came with a price far heavier than I could have imagined. The first sign came in the form of headlines. Digital screens, newspapers, even social media. My mother's death, my name, the inheritance, it was everywhere. Secret billionaire heiress emerges after mother's death. Pregnant heiress takes control of $10 billion empire. Who is Aisha Carter? The woman behind the world's most mysterious fortune. I froze in the middle of my apartment. The baby kicked violently, almost as if warning me. My heart raced. I had expected attention. I hadn't expected exposure like this. The boardroom meeting that morning was tense beyond anything I had ever experienced. Thomas Caldwell, the chairman, looked grim. "Mrs. Carter, the media leak has created chaos. Investors are calling. The public is watching. Rivals are circling." I felt a cold sweat on my forehead. "What leak?" I asked. "One of your mother's trusted aides, someone on the inside, has been selling information to the press," Caldwell said. His voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it. "We believe it is an attempt to test you." "Test me." I clenched my fists. "Then I will not fail." As I went through documents, messages, and emails, I noticed subtle patterns. Contracts were delayed. Deals were questioned. Suggestions that I might be incompetent were spread through the office, small, precise, calculated. Someone wanted to shake my confidence. And worse, they wanted me to make mistakes. I looked around the room. Board members I thought I could trust now seemed distant, cautious. A few avoided my gaze entirely. Was there betrayal inside my own company? That evening, an unexpected visitor arrived, Mr. Evans, a senior investor with decades of experience. "Mrs. Carter," he said, voice smooth but cutting, "I think it is time we discussed your capability to manage the empire. Your mother built it, yes, but..." He let the pause linger, heavy with implication. "Can you really lead?" I stared at him, fury and fear mixing in my chest. "I am learning," I said calmly. "And I intend to lead. My mother built this for me, and I will not fail her or anyone else." He smiled thinly. "Confidence is good, but experience counts more. Remember, mistakes are costly." I realized then that threats came not only from outside, but from within. Late that night, my phone buzzed again. "Unknown number. Unknown. Your decisions are being watched. One wrong move, and you will lose everything." I froze. "Me? Who are you?" No reply. Only the 3 dots blinking, a silent warning. The baby stirred. I pressed a hand against my belly. "I will not fail," I whispered, more to myself than anyone else. Over the next days, subtle attacks increased. Board members subtly undermining decisions I made. Rival investors questioning my ability publicly. Media speculation growing, using leaks to sway public opinion. Each incident was designed to destabilize me, to test whether I would crack under pressure. But every time, I reminded myself, my mother had faced this, and I would survive. Then came the first direct challenge from a corporate rival, a man named Victor Lang. He was ruthless, wealthy, and influential. He had tried to acquire Carter Global Holdings months before, but my mother had refused. Now he saw me young, pregnant, new to the game, as weak. He arrived at the office unannounced, flanked by his team. "Mrs. Carter," he said with a cold smile, "I hear congratulations are in order. But managing billions is delicate. Perhaps you would like guidance." I stared at him, feeling every ounce of resolve in my body. "I don't need guidance," I said firmly. "And I won't be intimidated." He laughed lightly. "We shall see. You may inherit the empire, but power is earned, Mrs. Carter, not given." That night, I finally understood the magnitude of what my mother had left behind. Not just wealth. Not just influence. Enemies. Rivals. Betrayal. And tests at every corner. I held my belly, feeling my child stir. "They won't hurt us," I whispered. "I will protect you. And I will fight." For the first time, I realized the inheritance wasn't just money. It was a battle. A war. And I was now at its center. And that night, I learned that power comes with a cost far more terrifying than I ever imagined. The rain poured outside, heavy and relentless, matching the storm inside my heart. I had just left the Carter Global offices, exhausted from boardroom battles and the media frenzy. Every step I took toward my car felt measured, cautious. Somewhere in the shadows, I knew I was being watched. I reached my vehicle and paused. A figure emerged from the darkness, a man in black, moving too fast, too silent. My heart raced. Before I could react, hands grabbed my arms. Strong. Pulling. "Let go!" I screamed, trying to kick, to escape. But the figure was relentless. I felt the cold metal of a gun pressed against my back. My breath caught in my throat. "Mrs. Carter," a voice said calmly, but with menace, "you're coming with us. Don't fight it." Panic surged. The baby inside me kicked violently. Pain. Fear. Survival instincts all collided at once. I struggled, adrenaline fueling me, but the figure's grip was unbreakable. And then sirens. Flashing lights outside. The man cursed under his breath and shoved me into a dark van. The doors slammed shut. I was trapped. Inside, the van was silent except for the engine's hum. I sat on the floor, hand on my belly, trembling. I couldn't see the driver. I didn't know where we were going. The envelope my mother had left, the security devices Mr. Reynolds had given me, they all felt useless in this moment. Minutes, or was it hours, passed. My body ached, my mind raced. Every scenario ran through my head. Then a voice, calm but cold, broke the silence. "You don't belong in this world, Mrs. Carter. Your mother should have left you out of it." I looked up. The man was tall, imposing. He removed his hood, revealing a face I would never forget, calculated, cruel, confident. "You can try to fight," he said. "But you're weak. Vulnerable. Pregnant." I swallowed the fear. "I may be pregnant," I said, voice trembling but defiant, "but you will never control me." He laughed. "We'll see." Suddenly, the van slowed. The doors unlocked. My heart pounded. Escape? Or trap? Before I could move, Mr. Reynolds' voice came through a small earpiece I had forgotten I was wearing. "Aisha, follow my instructions exactly. Don't panic." I nodded silently, though he couldn't see me. "Open the vent on your left. Crawl through. Don't look back." My hands shook as I forced the vent open. The space was tight, dark, claustrophobic. The van moved, but I crawled forward, hand over my belly, teeth clenched, heart racing. Outside, rain poured. I stumbled onto the wet asphalt, shivering. Lights flashed. Shadows moved. A black SUV blocked my path. Another man appeared. My instincts screamed run. Then a voice called out, "Aisha, this way." I didn't hesitate. I ran toward the sound, slipping in the rain, barely noticing the pain in my legs, the fear twisting my stomach. Mr. Reynolds stepped out from the shadows, gun in hand, perfectly calm. "Get in," he shouted. I didn't question. I leapt into the vehicle. The van behind us accelerated, tires screeching. But Mr. Reynolds' driving was flawless. The van couldn't keep up. Once safe, I collapsed into the seat, trembling, breathless. "You're okay," he said, voice calm but with underlying tension. "But this is just the beginning. They will try again." I looked at him, finally letting the tears fall. Fear, exhaustion, anger, all pouring out at once. "They won't stop," I whispered. "No," he said. "Not until they know you're as dangerous as your mother." I placed my hand on my belly. "Then I will become dangerous," I said quietly, determination hardening inside me. This was no longer about inheritance. No longer about money. It was about survival, protection, power. And I realized something in that moment. I would not be a victim. Not my mother. Not my child. Not me. Because now the war had begun. And I would fight it with every ounce of strength I had. And by the time I stepped into the next phase of my life, I realized power isn't given, it's taken. The city had calmed after the storm, but the world around me was still moving at a pace I couldn't control. My mother's empire wasn't just wealth, it was influence, secrets, and a network of people who were loyal only to her. Now, loyalty had to be earned. Mr. Reynolds sat across from me in the secure office, his hands folded neatly. "Aisha, you've survived the first attacks," he said. "But now it's time to strike back. Strategically." I nodded, determination hardening in my chest. Fear had no place here anymore. Not for me. Not for the baby. Our first step was intelligence. We compiled dossiers on every board member, investor, and rival who had challenged my authority or threatened the company. Names, connections, habits, weaknesses, all mapped meticulously. "Knowledge is power," Reynolds said. "And anyone who underestimates you will regret it." I studied the files late into the night. Patterns emerged: who leaked information to the media, who doubted my decisions, who secretly hoped I would fail. I didn't feel hate yet. Not fully. I felt clarity. Focus. Next came alliances. I reached out to loyal executives my mother had trusted. Quietly, privately, I reminded them why loyalty mattered. Subtle messages. Unnoticed gestures. But everyone understood they were part of something bigger than themselves, and I was now its leader. By the end of the week, I had regained control of the company internally. The board meetings felt different now. Where before I had felt small, powerless, scrutinized, now I held the gavel figuratively. Every word I spoke carried weight. Every decision was final. The media war was next. Leaked documents had already made waves. Public perception had to be controlled. I authorized press releases highlighting stability, innovation, and growth. Carefully curated interviews portrayed me as strong, capable, and ready. Victor Lang, my corporate rival, tried to undermine me publicly. But with careful strategy, every move he made backfired. Investors began questioning his motives, doubting his integrity. For the first time, I felt the thrill of control. The feeling was intoxicating, but not reckless. Every move was calculated, every step deliberate. One evening, as I prepared for a late-night conference call with international investors, Mr. Reynolds entered with a subtle smile. "They're watching you," he said. "I know," I replied. "But now, it's my turn to watch them." He handed me an encrypted tablet. "These are surveillance feeds, communications intercepts, and insider reports. Every rival move, every whisper. You'll know everything before they act." I held the device, the weight of information pressing against me. But instead of fear, I felt strength. It wasn't long before the first test came. Victor Lang made a bold move, attempting a hostile takeover of a subsidiary. His agents infiltrated our systems, trying to manipulate stock prices. I watched the feeds, saw every move he made, and countered them in real time. Deals were secured. Stocks stabilized. Investors reassured. And by the end of the day, his reputation was tarnished. He didn't know I had seen everything. He didn't know I had anticipated him. That night, I sat alone, hand on my belly, reflecting. This wasn't just about revenge. It wasn't about wealth. It was about proving to myself that I could survive, that I could lead, that I could protect what my mother had built. And for the first time, I felt a profound connection to her legacy, not just the empire, but her strength, her intelligence, her resilience. The next morning, I convened a private meeting with my most trusted allies. From today, I said, voice steady, unwavering, we operate as one. Every threat, every move against us, will be countered. Our enemies will learn they cannot underestimate us. And anyone who dares to betray Carter Global Holdings will face consequences. The room was silent. Then nods, murmurs of agreement. Loyalty confirmed. Strength reaffirmed. I realized then that I had stepped fully into my mother's shoes. Not as a frightened heiress, but as a leader, as a force to be reckoned with. And deep inside, beneath the strategic plans and boardroom maneuvers, I felt another fire. Revenge. Not reckless, not out of spite, but deliberate, precise, unavoidable. Victor Lang would regret underestimating me. Every betrayer would. Every enemy, every spy, every insider who doubted me. They would all learn that Aisha Carter was not the powerless, abandoned woman they thought they knew. The empire was stabilized. The threats were neutralized, or at least anticipated. And for the first time, I allowed myself a small, quiet smile. I will protect you, I whispered to my child, who stirred in my belly. And I will make sure that what my mother built never falls into the wrong hands. The war was far from over. But I was ready. And now nothing and no one could stop me. And today, the world would see exactly who I was. The boardroom was packed. Investors, executives, media representatives, everyone who had questioned my ability, whispered doubts behind my back, was here. Victor Lang sat at the far end of the table, his smirk barely hidden. He thought he had me cornered. I felt the baby stir as I took a deep breath. 7 months pregnant, but standing taller than I ever had. This was no longer about fear. This was about power. This was about showing the world that Aisha Carter was not a name to underestimate. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, voice steady, clear, authoritative. Today, we clarify the direction of Carter Global Holdings. Any rumors, doubts, or manipulations are irrelevant. The company is strong. The empire is secure. And its leader is me. Murmurs rippled through the room. Cameras flashed. Victor's smirk faltered slightly. He leaned forward. Mrs. Carter, he said, voice smooth, trying to assert dominance, I'm curious. Do you truly understand the complexities of this empire? Or are you simply repeating what your mother taught you? I smiled faintly. I understand more than you think, Mr. Lang. And unlike some, I do not underestimate my opponents. The room went silent. Every eye was on us. Victor continued, attempting to belittle me publicly, pointing out potential risks in international investments, questioning my authority, trying to sow doubt among investors. But I was prepared. I pulled up data from the past week, the moves I had made, the counter-strategies I had implemented, the errors Victor's team had already made. Victor, I said calmly, voice firm, you assumed weakness where there was none. Every decision I've made has strengthened the company, stabilized markets, and increased shareholder confidence. Your attacks only reveal your desperation. Gasps. Cameras clicked. The board members exchanged impressed glances. Victor's jaw tightened. He had underestimated me, and it was becoming painfully obvious. The media frenzy outside was intense. Live feeds, tweets, breaking news. Everyone watched, everyone scrutinized. And I thrived. I allowed the cameras to capture my calm composure, my intelligence, my authority. Every carefully chosen word, every controlled gesture sent a message. Aisha Carter was not only in charge, she was untouchable. By mid-afternoon, the showdown escalated. Victor attempted to call a special vote within the board to challenge my authority. I had anticipated this. I presented evidence, contracts, insider information, communications that exposed his attempts to manipulate shareholders and destabilize the company. The board gasped. Investors shifted uncomfortably. Victor's power play crumbled in real time. I felt a surge of satisfaction, not cruelly, but firmly. Justice. Strategy. Control. After the meeting, I stepped outside briefly to breathe. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Mrs. Carter, are you worried about Victor Lang? Are you ready to face more challenges? Do you feel prepared to lead an empire worth billions? I smiled. Calmly. Confidently. I am more than prepared, I said. And anyone who tries to challenge us will quickly learn that Carter Global Holdings is under capable leadership. That night, alone in my office, I allowed myself a quiet moment. Mr. Reynolds entered, a subtle smile on his face. "You did well today," he said. "Victor Lang won't underestimate you again. And everyone watching knows it." I rested my hand on my belly. It's not just about Victor. It's about every person who ever doubted me. Every threat, every whisper, every betrayal. They'll all see what it means to challenge the heir of Carter Global Holdings. He nodded. "And next, we will ensure that none of them can harm you, or your legacy, ever again." I realized then that the empire my mother built was more than wealth. It was a force. And now I was the one controlling it. Victor Lang was neutralized publicly, my authority was confirmed, and the world had witnessed the transformation of a frightened, abandoned pregnant woman into a strategic, powerful leader. And deep inside, I knew this was only the beginning. The real power plays, the true revenge, and the final triumph were yet to come.